Okay, folks, we're back. Back to play with some kitty cats here. So yesterday we put this panther from Plastic Soldier Company together, and cut the fenders off. And honestly, it looks kind of weird. One thing that kind of surprised me is the gap between here and the top of the track. It seems awkwardly large. So this one we're doing that way. We're gonna put the extra shirts in on here. But we're going to do that after we've already painted it and painted the tracks. So it's going to make my life a lot easier. So we got that. We finished Yag Tiger yesterday. I don't have the two sections glued again because it's going to be easier to paint this track without it being glued on there. And so we've got her completely done, and we took these tracks here and we made some impressions with the mold because this pizza chip does not have any of those tracks on here. This is the Inglorious King Tiger from Pegasus, which my recommendation is don't ever buy this damn thing. It is disappointment. Nothing but disappointment. So we cast some out of the white milliput, and then we made some out of the green, and we didn't even pop these out. So let's take a look and see what we got here. And I'm going to have to put my super readers on to be able to see what has transpired here. But it actually worked better than the white milliput, was the green stuff. Actually pretty reasonable. So we're going to cut those out and we're going to glue them on. I should have enough now for both King Tigers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. And that's using these guys. I think I'm going to use them. And we're going to keep the molds because we may need to do more track length. But it actually worked pretty well. And the green stuff worked better than the milliput. It was a lot easier to control the thickness, and it's more chalky certainly than the other one. This one's still kind of pliable, so we're going to trim those down and do that. But we have enough for 2 vehicles, so you know what that means. We've got to put another one of these pizza craps together. With these instructions that are super basic and this plastic that doesn't stick together. So I'm probably going to have to super glue it. And I hope I have enough super glue to do it. I may not. Okay, so let's cut these pieces out and then we can put the track links on both of the King Tigers. I was going to call them Royal Tigers, but that's what the British call them. And honestly, they're more. That's more actually apt to be called the original pre-production turreted ones. I don't think I've ever seen the what they like to call them the Henschel turret, which is this. Really, the production turret and the pre-production turret. The pre-production turret's always the one that's referred to as the Royal Tiger by the Brits. I don't know that they called this later one Royal Tiger. I could be wrong, but I could be wrong, and it wouldn't be the first time. All right, so we've taken that off. This plastic is extremely brittle. I was thinking at some point I was actually going to buy another model of the King Tiger. Not that I need one. I don't even need these two. Just to get the spare track links. And then it dawned on me, I could use the ones from the Yak Tiger. And we're going to have to epoxy them on the turret. This is a very minimalist. King Tiger. And we'll see how long we're on based on you guys and your interaction. Last couple times I've tried signing in, I'm like half asleep before I even get in here. I said last night I wasn't going to get on tonight, but the planets aligned. Hey, Skylab, at least for a little while. All right. I'll try to stay on as long as you can stay on. It's a minor miracle that I was actually able to sign on today because I thought I'd still be at work for another hour, honestly. We had the busiest day of any day in 30 years today. And plus terrible weather. The weather was just, it could have been worse. It could have been lightning, but raining like a mofo. And we're going to paint both of these in a really late war paint schemes. Neither one of these will have a Dunkelgelb base. One is going to be the primer red, and one's going to be that green. At least that's what I'm thinking. Be something a little different. Right. And the pieces of the turret. I don't know where the hell that hatch went. It came with the other one. I built this before the move. And I better cast another hatch opening just in case. And it's just this model because the other Pegasus stuff I've been pretty happy with. It's just this particular Pegasus model that it is bad. It is just downright bad. And so I've never encountered ever a plastic model where the weld cement doesn't work on it. It's like immune. It's like they used, breast implants or something like that that's made out of a different material to Russian breast implants. There's Chinese breast. I keep thinking Pegasus is Russian. I originally thought that they were based on what they built, but no, they're Chinese. What's the worst model you've built, Skylab? What's the worst model company you've built? prior to this, I'd seen a company called, let me think of what they're called. They made weird shit. And I'm sure there's worse things out there right now, but that I'm aware of. Glencoe. I think it's Glencoe models. They made like a flying Jeep that they had from like the 1950s. It looks like a Jeep with like a fan on it. You know, some kind of a Jeep hovercraft thing. It just a piece of crap. Just a piece of crap. I think it's the name of the company, Glencoe. Lindberghs are pretty bad. Used to be that Revell were really bad, but Revell actually makes some decent stuff. Revell actually makes some decent stuff. There's a guy at the last model meeting that had something you would have liked. He'd built a Saturn V rocket. And I don't know what scale it was. It looked like it was like 1/44th or something like that. And what was interesting about it is it had some photo etch. And if you can picture up the side of the cylinder of the Saturn V rocket, it had these like wafer thin little, almost like T's on them. They just really, really small. And I asked the guy, I was like, how the heck did you get? Because I don't think photo etch is that difficult to work with, because it doesn't really bend without you wanting to bend it by accident. It's pretty durable. It's better than sprue. Now, how did you get that to glue on there? And they said, future floor wax. I'm like, I must have missed that class where that works. Worst was a 176 Matchbox model Amtrak. The whole bottom was warped. The fit was disgusting. I had an old Panther that I was never able to build. And it came in a bag. I have a feeling it was an Aurora kit. 1/72 scale. And it had the three prong hole. So basically, you know, if this was the hole, you'd have the side and another side and the bottom, and there were three separate pieces. And if one of these is warped, you're screwed. Well, you're screwed if you're a kid, because you know you're not smart enough to figure out how to whoop this thing's butt. Okay, but I just could never get to clamp closed. It was too big an ask for a. I guess it was probably about 11 years old, something like that. Never could get it to work right. And then I built my first 1/35th scale model with Tamiya, and I'm like, this is the gold standard. There's even humor in their instructions. This is the gold standard. So I'm not even going to try to glue this with regular cement. It's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. Doesn't even tell you how to put the suspension parts on there. You got to figure out your own damn self. My very first Tamiya was a Panzer IV Ostwind. I think it was like the heavens opened. The gold standard, man, I'm telling you. And there may be models that are better out there as far as instructions, but I don't think so. I just complete and total clarity. Complete and total clarity. I'm going to, let's see, how should I do this? Let me think about this for a second. I guess I should try looking to see if I can find the hatch. Why did I lose it? Because I built it and then we moved. I'm going to go ahead and cast it. I'm going to go ahead and cast it. Now, you don't need very much of this stuff. Like even this little bit that's here, this should be enough. And it looks like I got something cast in there. So I'm going to go get some boiling water and I'll be right back. All right, so here we go. We've got one mug with boiling water. And we're going to take this stuff and we're going to Just drop it in there, have it do its thing. What is this stuff called again? Hindo de washi. Hindo de washi. And we'll pull this out. And it's hot. And then we're going to take what do I do with it? No, I never pulled it off. Durr! Let's go ahead and drop it back in there again. I've been watching the Shogun series on Hulu. It's very good. Does it take place in the 1800s or does it take place in the 1500s? If it's in the 1500s, I'd watch it. If it's in the 1800s, I'm just not interested in that, you know, last Shogun type period. Just doesn't interest me. And we're going to take this and we're going to push it in. It doesn't have to be perfect because we can trim it. We're going to drop this in cold water. And then we're going to make some green stuff. Pull that out, make some green stuff, and then put it in there. Very late 1500s. All right. Cool. Got anybody in there you've heard of before? Has it got, who's my boy? Wesugi Kenshin. Okay, so this is cold. We're going to pull this out. And we have a mold for that hatch. Which, the cool thing about all of this is totally reusable. It's not like, oh, I just gave up on it. No, you can keep casting these. I'm sure it has some kind of a life to it. But this stuff's pretty inexpensive. So let's mix up some green stuff and make us a hatch that's going to be closed. And that way I'll actually find the hatch. It's there somewhere. I just don't want to spend, 30 minutes looking for it. It's based on the real story of an English navigator who got past the Portuguese and changed politics in Japan. Portuguese were having a siesta, huh? I'm sure they do siestas in Portuguese too. It's not my people, just my people. It's my neighbors too. My people's neighbors. All right, I'm going to do something different this time. I'm going to actually cut this center section out. Because it never seems to cure well. Now, forget I said that. Let's get it out of here. Then we'll take that center section out. Okay, this should be enough. Hindo de washi! Nobunaga. Oda Nobunaga. The Honda dude with his big helmet with the deer things. Can you tell everybody apart? It's got to be better than Ron. I was really disappointed with Ron. You know, a make believe Western story with a make believe thing. If they use real name people, that's much better. But again, it's watching something. I just have a hard time watching, sitting down and watching things. Now, what helps is if the daughter comes home. She came over last weekend and we finally finished Masters of the Air. But myself sitting down and just watching something, I'd rather do this, you know. So, she'll be back for the summer, I guess, probably in about a month, and then be here for like 3 months. So I'll probably catch up on my TV watching. But who's your favorite character in the series? They're going to extreme efforts to keep the series authentic. If extreme measures. If you die on the show, we'll kill you. To be accurate. Who's your favorite character? Are they trying to push a certain guy? Who's the guy I didn't like? I never liked Shingen. I never cared for Shingen. Always sitting on a stool. Use some fictional names, but you know your history, you know who they are. Yeah. Well, you know, those kind of series, they don't have to be 100% authentic, but at least make it interesting so you'll want to like read more about whatever it is that you saw on your own time. That's what I think they should do. You know. No. I made way too much of this stuff, but I don't care. Let's see how this is casting. Yeah, casts pretty well. Now we're gonna take some of this stuff out. We're gonna take half of this out. Because we want to lay this kind of thin. I'm really new at this. So if you expect to learn something new, but like for instance, I'm missing an idler wheel on one of my T26s. I'm going to make it, and then it'll be one made out of green stuff. Now, I'm going to use green stuff because I'm not a real big fan of the white milliput. It's a little too chalky. This has some rubber properties that bounce back some, which I feel a little bit more comfortable with. That's not enough. We need to double that up for thickness. But I'm really new at this. I hope this isn't the hot one. I can't grab hot things with my hands. I don't do well with that. I can put them in my mouth. Hot things in my mouth. Temperature hot, but not in my hands. Hiro Sanada plays Lord Toranaga based on the real Tokugawa Ieyasu. I'm going to pull this out just to make sure that we got a good... Yes, we do. All right? And then we'll do it, and then we're going to leave it there, and we'll check on it in the morning. All right. Yeah, I played my share of Samurai Warriors. I know who many of those guys are. Or their cartoon video game version of them. You showed up in John Wick 4. There's 4 John Wicks. I like the first one. That's it. I wish they had gotten somebody else to play him. You know. Keanu's just not very likable. I mean, he's supposed to be a really good guy in real life. And that's good because there's not enough of those folks in Hollywood. But he has zero charisma. So... And he's probably a better actor than I am, but he doesn't do anything for me. He's a bit too stonery for me. But I know he did all the action sequences and stuff in that. And that's cool, but he just has zero charisma. So, at least for me. You might remember him from Last Samurai as a samurai who teaches Tom Cruise how to fight as a samurai. I don't, because I only saw it one time, and that was enough. And it was because of the time period. You know, and it's kind of like it's a samurai thing. So why is the West involved in something like that? It's like that's why I got so upset about Ron. Not because Ron isn't filmed really cool. It's just you guys took King Lear. Like, okay, tell us some Asian stories. Like, we already know the freaking Shakespearean crap. Like, I'm there to learn about, maybe some Asian legends that I'm not familiar with. No, we'll turn it into Shakespeare. I don't watch a samurai film to hear Shakespeare. You know, it was like a missed opportunity. Be like, hey, we don't have enough African American shows or enough history stuff, which I agree with. So let's make some Black Vikings. I'm like, no. No, there's no reason to do make believe shit. Stop being lazy and do some real history. Okay. All right, the very first thing we need to put on here is no doubt this. And this almost fits on there without glue. And that's the thing about Pegasus. The fit on Pegasus isn't bad, but they use this plastic that just doesn't work with glue. I've never seen something like this before. Let's make sure this fits in here correctly. That's the problem with using super glue, is you put it in the wrong place and you're done. It's over. Game over, man. Yeah, I only saw Last Samurai once. I tend to not rewatch things. So I'm not your guy to remember lines from movies and stuff like that. All right. Let's see how much of the super glue we got on here. This one. I have this one, and I think that's it. I have no more. You don't have any black samurais in there, do you? And that's cool if you want to create inclusive content. I'm all for it, but don't create fake history, because you're basically you're giving people a bad shake too. It's like, hey, here's some history for you. It's like, you faked our history, dude. Ron was definitely not Western. It was directed by your favorite Japanese director, Kurosawa, although partly Shakespeare. It also includes bits from the life of. I don't know, I didn't care for it. It was all make believe. And like, the red guy, and then the yellow guy, and then the. I want to learn stuff about their culture, not. put it into a familiar venue. God, I hate these things. Let's use this so we don't cut ourselves. The Marcus. What I really want to see, and I don't want to pay for it. Sorry, I got too many free things. Certainly they'll show on one of the free things. I want to see the Godzilla thing. What do you guys were turning me on about the heavy cruiser, and I was like, all right, I want to see what heavy cruiser there is. All right, this is my bad impression of this company is getting worse. If that's possible. Let's. All right, we're going to glue that in there first. Like that. Now that it's in there, now we'll put it on here. The Maroon Cardinal. Ah, what a maroon. I need to do the same thing on the back before I get carried away. Right? Because it gets one on the back. Maybe I'm the exception, though. I don't like I don't like movies that are made about the Battle of Atlantic and that they have an American destroyer in there. I don't necessarily have to have things that are familiar to me to be able to watch it. Maybe I'm the exception. But then I watch historical things for education, not necessarily entertainment. And education can be entertaining. Okay. The annoying Pegasus. Yeah, I've already built one of them way back when. And I lost the turret and the hatch in the move, so I just cast another hatch. So that'll be ready in the morning. I cast I stopped building them because I never finished them because they're missing the tracks on the side here. It's an important part of them. I mean, there's already no tools. I'm just going to deal with them not having any tools or cable, something like that. But they'll look okay when they're done, but they're awfully minimalist. They're dreadfully minimalist. Yeah. So why did I buy these? Because I could use my credit from Noble Knight. That's the only reason. I don't even need King Tigers. I don't really have a fetish for this late war stuff, but all this stuff that I got, including the Yag Tigers, they're ones because I was able to use the credit from Noble Knight. I don't have a fetish for Wehrmacht 1946 or the Bundeswehrpens. You know, you take a weapon, you take something like the Jagdtiger, right? And it's an incredible vehicle. Armor thick as hell, gun that can penetrate anybody. But by the time they came out, forget air superiority. By the time they came out, the crews that the Germans had to man those things, you'd have like an experienced commander and the rest of the crew would be green. You basically have crap crews in these things. You know, that's not what I think of the Germans. I don't think of the Germans in some super weapon and they got, you know, guys that are just basically, you know, don't know which way is forward type of thing on the gear shift. I consider them, you know, like a venerable opponent that's, you know, experienced in. You slippery mother. But not with these vehicles. These vehicles, they're like clueless wonders. So these are going to be ones that just got rushed out of the factory. You know. Well, it never fell on the ground. Now we don't know where the idler wheel is. Come on, man. Okay, there's nothing on this sprue other than the cannon. Okay, this sprue's gone now. These are the road wheels, which we don't need yet. This thing is cursed. Things that have never happened with other vehicles have this one. Oh, I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going. I'm gluing this thing in. And if the thing doesn't fit in later, then I will fix it. We can just leave it like that for now. It will turn up. It's here somewhere. I just didn't want to spend 20 minutes picking this area up again from last night. I want to do something relaxing because today has been a nightmare, a work nightmare. All right. Let's look at the back. Let's look at the back piece. And I got to use super glue because the regular glue doesn't work on this stuff. I'm going to try and ambush camouflage that might compensate lack of equipment. I've already done it before. My Panther G has the ambush. I don't think I'm going to do it on these. I think it turned out pretty well. I'm just going to do some late 1945 type paint schemes, which I've never done before. So one of them is a base green and one of them base red. One of them base primer red. So that'll be interesting. My Panther that came out in the ambush scheme turned out pretty well. I was pretty happy with it. I am not a fan of super glue though. Okay. I'm not going to leave that glued in. I just want to see how it fit in there. I'm going to leave it so we can get this thing glued in at that appropriate angle. And then we'll pull it out because we've got the whole stuff to put on there. Well, the idler here is the sprocket wheels here somewhere. Remember reading about 3 or 14 Tigers rushed from the factory to a training platoon thrown in action against the Soviets as they were crossing the Oder River in 1945. Let me guess, the Germans didn't win the war. Whoopsie. Okay, that fits on there pretty well. And then this one over here. That fits on there pretty well. All right. The thing is I gotta do them in 45 because, or really late 44 because they don't have Zimmerit. And I forget what the date of the Zimmerit, the drop dead Zimmerit date was. This thing's about dead. I was at the store the other day and I didn't feel like spending $6 for this because super glue doesn't cost $6. I'm from the land before COVID, and these new improved COVID prices on some things, if it's something that I don't need badly, I'm like, I'm not paying for that. No, that doesn't cost that. Okay. There's a scenario in one of the war games and soldiers and strategy in 1945 scenario with Yag Tigers in it. And I almost picked up the Osprey book that's on Remagen. But I don't want to pay, $8 for a book that smelled funny. It smelled like a basement. And there's no basements in Florida. Okay, that one can safely be glued in. Can I glue the front? Or do I need to glue this piece first? It'd be nice if I could just go ahead and glue this in and then glue this afterwards. And I can do that. Okay, perfect. So we're going to go ahead and drop some in here and there. Okay, and on the back of this, going to be there's literally a hinge. The thing opens out so you could switch out the cannon if you needed to. All right, and the front of this, where's my, we'll use an old X-Acto blade. Mm-hmm. All right. And then make sure that's even there. Let's use the back of the X-Acto knife. It's not as harsh. I'm not an expert on late war stuff by any stretch of the imagination. I kind of like things when a lot more even, so I'm a fan of 41 and 42 more than 43, 44, 45. Definitely. Okay, it's oblong to the left. Once once things become kind of uneven, I lose interest in learning about them. And this one, we're going to pull this out and glue it in place. It's a shame there's not a epoxy that comes out just like that. I'm going to get a little bit of tea. I'll be right back. The lack of tools, shovels, etc. on here probably be passable, but they always have the spare tracks there because it serves as armor too. Do we know if any GIs were able to stop king tigers with bazookas? I came across something. I don't know where. In my readings. And it said that no king tiger was ever stopped by a frontal penetration. And, you know, a JS2 can punch through the front of the king tiger. But they also didn't have really experienced crews. And they only had 22 rounds. And the rate of fire is really bad. So, yeah, I don't think so. It might be like the Abrams. No Abrams have been disabled from the front, or at least that was the thing. Maybe, you know, when the truth comes out. Yeah, they'll be fine. I mean, they'll be fine for what, you know, for what they are. Now, this has the ubiquitous jack. I've already put this one in here. We'll put this one in the bottom one over here. Ubiquitous German jack. Like an insult you call somebody. I'm going to put it through there and then super glue it from the back side. Remember the Bulls, U.S. engineers stopped Piper's Tiger with 3-inch guns at Stavelo. Well, either what I read is wrong, or they didn't stop them through the front. All you got to do is get the crew to abandon. And the easiest way you can do that is any vehicle, fire. Start a fire on the intake of a vehicle. You're going to have a problem. The crew's going to have a problem on their hands. All right, let's drop a couple drops in there. Piper, that Nazi bastard. Hemmen. Did they make a bust for him? A bust for Piper? They make one for Max Wunsch. I believe he was a Panzer Regiment commander of the Hitler Jugend in Normandy. Like a Wunsch fanboy. You know, they were sharp dressers, but that was it. Everything else about them sucked. They had cool uniforms. One of the worst looking uniforms, in my opinion, unfortunately, is the U.S. Tankers uniform. There's worse. But it's pretty bad. But ultimately, it didn't really matter, you know. Doesn't matter what you look like. Just found a picture of the king tiger knocked out near Stavalo. Quits right and back in the middle. The question is that what knocked it out? I don't know. I didn't make that up. That's just what I read. It could be wrong information. I should look that up. And I want to say it wasn't just some random thing. It was like by somebody like Zalaga or something like that. Or Zaloga. How do you say his name? Zalaga sounds better. Sound like a video game. I don't know. Got the highest score on Zalaga. Come on. Steven Zalaga. This thing is such a slippery little bitch. I'm going to do double D. We're going to glue that down and we're going to put it in. Yeah, I don't know. I read it. I was surprised when I read it. I'm like, really? No 90mm gun? I mean, they made 478 of them. It's not like they made 3, you know? I mean, 478 is quite a few. But, you know, they got to survive, you know, not having a P-47 enema. I asked that question the other day. Nobody knew the answer to it. I don't know if there is a correct answer to it. Well, that doesn't fit in there all the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of filler and I'm going to fill that in. And it'll be just fine. You know, it's just very hard to test fit this stuff. I'm used to using this other glue and you got all the time in the world to work with it. This stuff is just flat out difficult. Okay. Yeah, I was actually surprised when I read that. I'm like, you know, they didn't make 3 of them. They made 478. That's quite a few. That's quite a few. Where's my phone? Right here. I have a new thing on my phone I can do. Actually, everybody can do all the time. I've just started using it for the first time. Let's see here. Hello. Okay, that worked. Have any king tigers been knocked out to the front? Okay, this is on Quora, which doesn't mean shit. Is it true that there's not a single recorded case of a tiger? Oh, this is a tiger 1. I'm sure a tiger 1's been contacted at the front. Definitely not true for the Tiger 1. The Tiger 2 had 150 millimeters of armor sloped at 40 degrees on its whole front, equating about 170 millimeters of armor. The British 17-pounder with APDS shot was able to penetrate that thickness out to at least 1,000 meters. So this Tiger 2 was certainly not safe on the battlefield. Similarly, the 90 millimeter, which HVAP, could penetrate the Tiger 2's front armor with those ranges. With so few Tiger IIs produced, fewer than 500 in total, and their poor reliability and mobility, they didn't manage to get into that many fights. So it's possible that none were taken out by penetration through the front, the problem being that they broke down, ran out of fuel, bogged in, or were killed by flank or rear shots instead. Yeah. This guy says one thing should be borne in mind: tank and anti-tank gunners were trained not to shoot at the front armor of any tank, unless there was no alternative. If possible, they would try a side or a lateral shot, or preferably at the rear. One of my uncles was an anti-tank gunner, and in 8 months combat, he saw 12 Tigers, 6, including 2 Tiger IIs, had been blown up by their own crews after they'd run out of fuel or broken down. 2 were trashed by aircraft-fired rockets. 1 was upside down in a shell hole caused by naval gunfire. Yeah, you lose. I mean, what's a small naval gunfire? A 5-inch gun? That's a problem. And 3 that were stopped with anti-tank guns all had been shot in the engine bay from the flank. None of them were his kills. He never took on anything worse than a Stug 3. Normandy 1944. Oh, here's a picture with the pre-production turret. I've started to, yes, it's the Porsche turret, but that's what everybody refers to as a Porsche turret. But it's the it's the pre-production turret. They had 50 of those. I honestly think it looks better. Um, First Tiger to be knocked out in combat. I thought there was comments on it. So it looked like there was. It's a good looking vehicle. Most tanks are good looking vehicles. Most of them. There's exceptions, but I'd say most of them are attractive. I'm not even one of those people that thinks the Sherman's ugly. The Sherman's just a Sherman. You know, there's there's some individuality they can certainly have. Makes them kind of all unique. Now, we have these road wheels here that fit on top of the other ones. So let's go ahead and there should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for each one. Yep, there's 10. And eventually we'll come across the idler wheel, which I don't know where the hell it went. But we also need to put this in. I want to glue the oh, this fits in there nicely. I want to glue the damn the track. That's the whole reason I was doing this. And I might as well put both of them together. Okay. There is the light. They're running out of supplies. We have to put one light in the middle. It serves for everything, you know. No time for no 2 lights. Wonder how many Hetzers could have been built in Tiger IIs. My question that nobody was able to answer. What would have happened in Normandy if there was air parity? What would have happened if Normandy lands? They land at Normandy. They can have superiority during the landing. Once the stuff is on land, you don't have these, yabos basically striking at every single German vehicle that moves. What would have happened? Some people might say, well, Normandy wouldn't have been invaded. No, let's just say they go along with it. Let's say the Allies have German intelligence, which was wrong all of the time, and land anyways. What happens to all the German vehicles when you have to take them on in ground combat? You can't just take them out from the air. Hetzer wasn't a great vehicle. It had a lot of deficiency. I mean, the best thing about the Hetzer is it had a chassis that was the running gear was really reliable. But something like Jagdpanzer IV would have been better. But Germans are starting to get into a thing like the Japanese war late in the war. Well, they just don't have experienced crews. They took so many losses. I mean, they've got experienced folks, but they're not everywhere. Okay, here's the hatch. It's here somewhere. I'll add it later. You will not slow down production. And this stuff is super slippery. And it's all steel road wheels, so I don't have to paint the rubber. Woohoo! Not that it takes that long, but it is one more thing you don't have to deal with. The King Tiger was really immobile. I don't know that the Tiger 1 was that immobile. I think it did okay. Maybe as bad as, it was probably had as many movement issues as the Panther did. The Panther was okay once they got the kinks worked out. We get a sample of what happened when the 21st Panzer managed to drive tanks between the U.S. and the British landing zones. It caused delays, but the naval bombardments caused many casualties. Yeah, and the 21st Panzer had. I'm not a fan of the 21st Panzer. I prefer the 15th in North Africa. I don't really like a symbol. It looks like a freaking D. Kind of lame. But they had all those weird vehicles. They had a bunch of French vehicles. They had some Panzer IVs, but they also had a bunch of, third tier French commandeered vehicles in there. I'm not saying because they're French. I'm just saying because, they're 4 years old. Some of them had some better weapons put in them, but it had a bunch of weird shit in it in the 21st Panzer. And they're supposed to have 2 battalions. I'm pretty sure they had only one. But well, shit, we're talking about it. Oh, this is a really cool book, by the way. The one I'm getting ready to bring. It's relatively inexpensive, also. Panzers in the Battle of Normandy. I know there's a thing in here that speaks right about what we're talking about. Of course, this is old news. This is 2000. Armored units in the West, and it has them broken down by the division and whether they're Mark IIIs, Mark IVs, Panthers, Tigers, assault guns, booty tanks. What the hell's a booty tank? So if you look at the 21st Panzer Division, it has 112 Mark IVs. Okay, that's a lot. They had a bunch of French tanks in there as well. No Panthers. So don't build any Panthers for the 21st Panzer Division in Normandy. Looks like they had two battalions of Panzer IVs. Now, Panzer had 98 Mark IVs and 88 Panthers. That's the unit that had the most Panthers. Then 2nd Panzer Division. They had 79. 2nd SS had 78, according to this book. Then Hitlerjugend with 66. And then you have these independent regiments, which, I hate independent regiments. 1st Battalion Panzer Regiment 15, 4 Panthers. Like, okay, that's nice. And then this, now you have the organization. Okay, so if we look here for the 21st Panzer Division, most Panzer regiments have 2 battalions. The 1st Battalion and the 2nd Battalion. The 1st Battalion, as a general rule, if you have Panthers, they're usually the 1st Battalion tanks. So that means if you've got 4 companies, Panthers are going to tend to be numbered in a 3 numbered tier systems: 100s, 200s, 300s, and 400s. You're not going to have Panthers normally that are 5, 6, 7s, and 8s. Those are going to be Mark 4s. As a general rule. Because the 1st Battalion, they would take the 4 companies that were the 100 series, the 200 series, and the 300 series, and the 400 series. So, 2nd Panzer Division, First Battalion has the Panthers, 2nd one has the Mark IVs. 2nd SS, same way. Hohenstaufen, same way. Hitlerjugend, same way. Panzerlehr, same way. 21st Panzer Division has 2 battalions of Mark IVs. So here it actually says the breakdown. It has 4 Panzer III 75mm gun armed. So that'd be like Panzer III. Well, it would have to be Panzer III's. That's the only one that they had that was a 75mm armed Panzer III. 21 Panzer IV's Kurz. Okay, that means those are going to be like, I know they used some C's, some old Panzer IV C's. And maybe they had some F1s sitting around, some E's. 21 of those. 96 Langs. So the long-barreled Panzer IVs. Probably J's and H's. 12 Flak Panzer 38s. And 2 command tanks. Doesn't say what they are. So the Panzerlehr is interesting because the Panzerlehr has an intrinsic 6 King Tigers in it. Okay? And if you've ever seen that model, there is a pre-production turreted, okay, so a Porsche, what the people call a Porsche turreted King Tiger with a big 12 on it. Okay? It's in Dunkelgelb, and it's got swooshy green camouflage on it. It has this really big 12 in white. It's like on the front of the turret, like up here. That is supposedly a Panzerlehr Porsche, or pre-production King Tiger. There's 6 of those in here. Yeah, and in here here's pictures of your favorite Nazis. If you want to. Yeah, here it is. Among obsolete tanks available to the 22nd Panzer Regiment, this is the 21st Panzer Division, this Panzer IV Type C with short-barreled gun was seen in Saint Martin de Fresnay just before the landings. It was painted in a sand yellow finish, did not have side protection plates or any markings, with the exception of the names of the drivers and radio operators' girlfriends painted on the front. See illustration on the facing page. So one of them was named Hetty. Tank crews often painted the names of their girlfriends on their vehicles. The following were to be seen in the 12th SS Panzer Regiment. Okay, so here's girlfriends of the Hitler Youth. That like an Osprey book? Girlfriends of the Hitler Youth? Paula, Wilma, Bertie, Steffi. And in the Panzerlehr Regiment, Christelle, Gerda, and Helsa. And here from the 22nd Panzer Regiment with Hedi, H-E-D-I, in white, and Elfriede in white chalk on the other side. Elf Frida. It's like fried elf. Not booty, it's beauty. Or Beut, kind of pronounced Boita. Those are command tanks, right? Aren't Boita tanks command tanks? Or maybe they're captured tanks. Yeah, so here's what I was talking about, okay? Here's a Panzer IV. A Panzer IV with Zimmerit, no doubt. Just looks weird. 837, 8th Company, 3rd Platoon, 7th Vehicle. That is really weird to have a vehicle with, there's never 7 vehicles in a platoon, so maybe they were just kind of throwing it on there just to just some intelligence. But here's a Panther, 300 series. Here's another Panzer IV, 600 series. So all the Panzer IVs are going to be 5, 6, 7s, and 8s, or I guess higher if they got a 5th company. But look at this nasty looking Zimmerit. Looks like some kid was making mud bricks. I'm not a fan of Zimmerit. I just think it looks shitty frequently. Frequently looks shitty. If you do it right, it looks shitty. Anyhow, this is a cool book. Now, these are French tanks modified or used as they were. Yeah. Yeah, what did they call it? No, they actually called them booty. Butty. Yeah. Booty tanks. And they're independent panzer regiments, panzer battalions, 205, 206, 213. So the 206, 46 French tanks. Yeah, so they must be, captured French tanks. 205th, 46 French tanks. I'm sure you can find stuff on them online on which particular French tanks, where there's Samuas or Hotchkiss 39s or maybe a mix of different things. Yeah, it has. I haven't looked at it. In a long time. I got it 20 years ago, 25 years ago, whatever. I still got that 1/35th scale modeling gene stuck in me. So I'm always like, when I'm building a vehicle, I'm like, all right, let's put numbers on it. I just don't want to arbitrarily pick numbers. I want to pick numbers that kind of make sense. The other thing that I've kind of noticed, and I don't know if this is still the case in 1944, but at least in 1941, in the invasion of Russia, the feeling I get is that, and I really wish there was this kind of information on the Soviets, but there just isn't. There just isn't. I mean, there's stuff on the Soviets, like they'd have these tank units. I'll show you one of them. It's a T-34 that I have here. That has for Soviet Moldavia, I believe is what it says. The slogan that's on it. Here it is. It's this vehicle right here. And I hand painted that slogan on there. I don't know if you could make that out. But I'm really proud of how it looks. This is for a tank brigade. In this tank brigade, and I've seen the pictures of it, every single tank in the tank brigade had the same slogan on the turret. Okay, that's just stupid. Okay, that's just like, what's the point in that? I'd be like, okay, I've got, 30, 40, 60, however many tanks are in a tank brigade. I'm not going to paint all of them with that slogan on there. You got to give, you got to get, some variety in there. But anyways, getting back to 1941 invasion of Russia kind of stuff. You've got generally 4 companies in each battalion. First one's has 100 series tanks, then the second 200, the third 300, and the fourth one the 400 series tanks. And the other battalion in the Panzer Regiment would have 5, 6, 7, and 8. Almost in every case, the 4th and the 8th, so the 4th company in the 1st battalion and the 8th company in the 2nd battalion, is where the Mark IVs would be in. So if you had any Mark IVs, and this was in North Africa also. So if you see any Mark IVs that are in North Africa, and it's like 1941, probably the case in 1942 as well, but they kind of experimented with some things in 1942. In 1941, you see any German tanks in North Africa or Russia, and it's a Mark IV, you're guaranteed that they're going to have a 4 or an 8. Their number's going to start with one or the other. That's the company that they're in. I don't know where the fuck I was going with that, but there was something I was going to make a comment on it regarding that. Oh, this is what I was going to. So those two battalions, you'd have. Let's say you've got generic Panzer Division, whatever it's called, generic Panzer Division Genericus. So you'd have two different battalions. First one's got the 100s, the 200s, 300s, and 400s. The 400s being the Mark IVs. The other one's got 5, 6, 7, and 8. The 8 being the Mark IVs. Now there's exceptions. Some of the Panzer divisions that were overstrength, I want to say the 7th was one of them, had, and they carried Czech 38s. You'll see Czech 38s with 4 numbers on them because they had a 10th company. Okay, and I don't know how that worked, whether the 1st battalion had 1 through 5 and then the other one had 6 through 10 or what have you. But anyways, so that's kind of how the split is. From what I can tell, the two battalions also had another differentiation between them. From what I can tell, they had a different numbering style of the numbers. Now, this is on paper. I'm sure there was things that probably varied from that. So, for instance, maybe the 1st battalion in this Panzer Division Genericus has white outline numbers in the 1st battalion. The 2nd battalion that has the numbers, 5, 6, 7, and 8 companies, they might have white outlines with red in the center, or maybe solid white. There's a distinction between those that I have noticed. I have noticed that. So, if you're going to create a bunch of things, that's just something else just to keep in mind for, I haven't done a scientific study, but that seems to be that all the tanks in the battalion tend to have a similar numbering scheme. Now, again, that's probably on paper. Bullets start flying, and who cares, right? But as a general rule, that seems to be something that I've noticed. Now, this is annoying because this has got to go underneath this other one. So let's see if we can do that without popping the idler wheel off. We can. Yes, we can. So those are just little trends that I've seen just by looking at pictures. And a lot of stuff is just, there's either no rules for, or there were rules and they weren't necessarily followed. Just depends when, like I said, when the bullets start flying, it's not really top on your priority. Panzer was notorious for taking Samoa tanks, making half-tracks out of them. I haven't seen those. And I have seen what is that French half-track that they had, which is actually pretty cool looking. Like a P107 or something like that. They have these bunnies that were all on the 21st. Yeah, the 21st drove all the way to the sea, and by rights, it's the weakest of the Panzer divisions. Kind of. You don't want to be in a Mark IV and taking, a shell from the war spite. Whoops! Gonna leave a mark. God, I hate using super glue for this. And man, everything takes. You start building models, unless you're going to throw things together, it takes some time to put stuff together. And that's not just me looking things up in a book. That's fun time. I'm just talking about, cleaning things up, so forth. And there were some divisions, like the 11th Panzer, that have the little ghost guy on rocket skates. That's what it looks like. The 11th Panzer, I forget what it's called, the Gepanzerts or something like that. Its vehicles were notoriously only had 2 numbers on them. So I'm not really sure what they omitted. I have a feeling they omitted the company. They just kept the platoon and the tank within the platoon number. And there's other tanks that went to North Africa that just had the company number. You'd have a bunch of Panzer IVs that just had a 4 on them. So if I was retired, that's probably what I would do. I'd probably compile a list of using actual photos. I think it'd be cool to do. It would interest me to do it. I have a personal interest in, wanting to be more accurate. And like I said, it'd be cool to be able to do that for other vehicles as well. Other nations. Not just the German shit, okay? The Germans are cool and all that, but they need other people to fight. They gotta fight other people too. All right. As a matter of fact, before I started working on these, I actually have more Soviets than I have Germans. Finished. No. I don't know where the hell the idler wheel is. That's annoying as shit. I don't think it fell on the ground. Well, I'm going to stop looking for it. Because you're just wasting my evening. Here's the box for the Jagd Tiger. Reminds me of that time I was working on that Panzer IV and I couldn't find where the hell the barrel went to. It had fallen inside a slot here, and the knob that made the chair do its thing. And I had a loose German commander around here that I pulled him off of the Panther. I had just set him off here yesterday. I guess I put him back in. Let's see what this bastard looks like inside the turret of this King Tiger. See if he looks all Hessler-like. It looks alright. Didn't have a machine gun. Didn't give you an AA machine gun on these guys. Although you think about it, how effective really is an AA machine gun on a German tank? Okay? If you're trying to shoot down a Yabo, you got one MG-34. That's equivalent to the smallest gun that's on a Messerschmitt, and you only have one of them. You're not shooting anybody down with one 7.92 machine gun on a Messerschmitt. Okay? Even the shitty Nate, the Japanese fighter plane, had more than one 30 caliber machine gun. So you're really not doing anything. It's more useful like against infantry. You know, you're not shooting down any planes with that. You know, and they normally weren't belt fed. They normally had that magazine that holds 75 rounds. So with 75 rounds, you're not going to shoot anybody. You're not likely to shoot anything down at all. Especially like a P-47 that's armored all get out. You know, because American planes have more armor than anybody else. So yeah, this guy looks okay. Maybe we'll well, if I'm going to have this open, I'm definitely going to epoxy this. Because you got this cantilevering force on here. We're definitely going to be epoxying that. Now, one thing I really need to add to this is the antenna. Because just having an antenna on there is going to add that other level of detail that, in my opinion, adds quite a bit on here. So I'm going to put on here King Tiger model. And I don't have to go super anal retentive about it. I'm just going to look at some pictures. And I have a feeling it's down here somewhere. Well, none of these show an antenna on. I've actually never built a model of a King Tiger. King Tiger antenna. Images. Okay. Looks like it's on the turret. You got one back here with the multiple points, but those tend to be like command vehicles. Well, this one has it down here. I don't know. The jury's still out on this thing. I don't have a book on the King Tiger. Why would I? That'd be silly. I had no intention of even getting these. All right. These are not the super readers. Let's put the super readers out. We're going to mix some epoxy up. And we're going to glue this cantilevering out so we can put a dude in here. And actually, before we do that, let's grab a fresh one of these. We got plenty of these, and we're going to cut this stuff out of the green stuff, because we're going to epoxy these the tracks on the side as well. But there's similarities of the Panzerlehr Panthers that were in Normandy tended to have additional armor on the turret in the form of extra track links here on the side. 116th Panzer Division tended to have spare road wheels that they'd attach to the side of them up on the turret. It's kind of a unique thing. I like the 116th. It's got a cool Greyhound symbol. I'm pretty sure it's a new Panzer Division. I don't think it served anywhere before Normandy. I think it was built for Normandy. I could be wrong, but wouldn't be the first time. All right, let's just take this off here. Take that off there. Okay, now what happens if I leave the meat between the two track links on? Well, first of all, they go like this. And let's get my Let's get my good tweezers, not these shitty ass ones. These are no good because they don't come to a fine point. I think I need to cut the meat out from behind it. All right, this is just extra roughage. We'll see how this goes with my first attempt with green stuff. I'm a noob when it comes to it. You know, you can read all about it, but until you've done it yourself, all bets are off. Now, if I had a King Tiger model, I'd probably cast some of the you know what I mean, some of the tools or something on there, just to give it some interesting things to look at on the vehicle. Things that make you go, I'd like to learn a little bit more about whatever that thing is that's on the side of that vehicle. And I'm going to take some of the better ones and put on this tank. So I should be able to cut this off. And I would have been perfectly happy if they would have left me the little prongs they're like, each has 2 prongs, and they just slide over them and they sit on there. If it would have been, the prongs, that's fine. But you didn't give me any prongs either. Like, this is totally missing something. Now, I have seen King Tigers that don't have any of these track links on the side, but they're covered in Zimmerit. So, okay, so here's one of them. And they're not perfect castings. But they're a hell of a lot better than not having any there. And just to compare, the first one we did with Milliput. And I have no idea what milliput dry is like. It looks chalky as shit. We'll see if that's really the case. It's actually okay. I bought this milliput. They had it on sale. They had it on clearance at Hobby Lobby for like $3. I'm like, well, I always talked about getting it. Now's the time to get it. I'll throw $3 at the problem. But honestly, the green stuff worked better. Who was the guy who was in the 21st Panzer Division? Is it von Luke? Guy so famous they named a BattleTech tank after him. I think there's some von Luke. BattleTech tank. Von Luke. That's like Lord Luck. It's Luke. Nah, it looks like Luck to me. Cool. We can reduce that in thickness. Perfect. It's going to turn up and I'll be like, really? It was there all along? Hell, it's in a place where I can just finish the whole damn vehicle. If I come across it at any point, I can just add it afterwards. What time is it? 10? Eastern Standard Time. No British chaps today. So we're going to pull this off. And there's a hatch. We're going to let that dry. We're going to make that hatch closed. And then we have the mold for the hatch. Okay. Well, I'm falling falling asleep. So I'm going to call it a night as far as that goes. And we will glue that together, the tracks, at a later date. Maybe even tomorrow. We will see how it plays out. Okay, folks, thanks for stopping by.